Hello everybody, Ketchi1383 with Ketchi Gaming, and I've been mainly staying out of the whole entire drama thing, but I usually make a video when I think a business mistake has been made, at least a very big one. And let's just say Nintendo has made a bunch of big mistakes lately. Some probably think bigger than what I would think they are, but that's just my opinion. Now, let me get something straight because this is the internet and you always have to sort of do that. I am not a fan of the price. Cheaper would be better for the same performance, but let's be realistic. A whole slew of economic factors have contributed to the higher prices of the hardware and the software. There's no shortage of people absolutely vitriolly complaining about that without even taking that into consideration, acting as if it should just be a lower price because they think it should be. One person comparing it to the Nintendo 3DS and that they dropped it down by $100, thinking that was the sole contributor to it eventually doing relatively well. It's not. It's like they've never taken business classes or even ran a business before. You have to analyze it as a whole. There are multiple factors to that. It wasn't just the one thing. Basically, there's just a boatload of armchair businessmen out there who think they know what they're talking about, but they really don't. And even me, like, be honest, yes, I've dealt with businesses before, a lot of personnel stuff, and that's my degree, is in business administration, with a focus on marketing, accounting, and human resources. The last one is a little bit weird. But with that knowledge of all those things, when people whinge about the prices and other things, I just sort of look at them as it's clear that their ignorance is just outstandingly high in regards to anything business. I also have a physics degree, and I was going back to earn a computer engineering degree, but money became a little too tight, and I couldn't do that anymore. Don't ask me too much about physics. It's been years because it was kind of a useless degree. I thought it would be useful, and it really interested me at the time, but not really. So I want to focus mainly on the marketing aspect of what's been going on, particularly when it surrounds the current CEO of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser. So, Doug Bowser is the current CEO of Nintendo of America. That's a secret to nobody. But Doug here has been inserting his foot into Nintendo's mouth. I say that because he's representing Nintendo, and he's not doing a very good job, which the odd thing is, he started Nintendo in 2015 as the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. But before that, he was part of Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts has a absolutely abysmal reputation for its marketing takes. Why you would hire this man is beyond belief. I never knew that until now when he made the statement and I decided to look him up. Holy shit. I try not to cuss, but in my live streams I'm really bad about it. But generally I don't, and I feel like this needs emphasis. So with that out of the way, let's address the most recent foot and mouth scenario that Doug Bowser has engaged in with a very tone-deaf statement. So this particular quote has some brackets in it, so I'm guessing they engage in some editorialing. We recognize there are some people that may not be able to afford the Switch 2's price point. That's why we wanted to make the other Switch platform available, so people still have an opportunity to come into our gaming universe, be part of these characters in these worlds, and see value, if you will, in whatever rung the platform they come in. So let's just start with Nintendo's history of shutting down old platforms. It happens with pretty much every console. I see no reason why this won't happen with the Switch. So unless you have plans on making a cheaper version of the Switch 2, I don't know why you would make that statement. Like I said, it's exceptionally tone deaf, and he should have known that people were definitely going to paint that in the worst light possible, with people saying no pores allowed for the Switch 2. Amongst other things, just openly interpreting it. It's very dishonest to me, and part of it, I'm pretty sure, is to engage in clickbait, which it definitely seemed to work. I won't point anybody out, but it's pretty obvious who they are. So I will kind of defend him a little bit in this, depending on whether or not he knew what the questions were going to be asked. And hopefully, this was not a pre thought out answer. So, one of my earlier jobs that I've had was a sales rep over the phone in 2016, I might add. And one of the things that we had to do is listen through an audit of our conversation, and then we had to listen to what the auditors told us what we should do, with often feeling that they were very wrong about said situation. And a lot of salespeople thought that it's like they didn't take into consideration that they have all the time in the world to conceive of an answer when you're on the phone with a person, and they're expecting an answer right away instead of you just sitting there and thinking about one. Yeah, it's kind of bullshit on the. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that he probably came up with an answer, I'm hoping, on the spot, and it just wasn't well thought out. Now, if I were to, let's say, play a game about let's say I don't know, a reply that would be reasonable, like, I'll get back to you later, send a quote to them later that day. Sure, it won't seem as organic or genuine, but it would have been far better than what he did here. First off, I would have pointed out that they clearly wanted to beef up the hardware so that it would have better performance in comparison to the Switch, or even to some of the other consoles like the Xbox or the PS5. By no means are they going to do better than those, but having a better performance has been something demanded of the Switch, with no shortage of people complaining about games being stuck at 30 frames per second. I mean, let's face it, they released Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remake, at 30 frames per second when the GameCube versions had it at 60. I would have then pointed out that it's cheaper than the PS5, the PS5 Pro. Yeah, but there's a whole can of worms with that one, but that's besides the point. And the Xbox Series X, along with whatever, I think, Series S, I totally forgot because I just don't care. Like the overwhelming majority of the gaming community, they just don't care about Xbox. So let's just come up with a quote here off the top of my head. It's probably going to still be bad, probably far less bad than what Bowser had out here, but let's give it our best college try. So this is like my sixth take trying to come up with a quote. Not easy as you think it is. I do realize that there are people who are unhappy with the price point of the Switch 2. But we wanted a better performing system this time around in comparison to the Switch 1, which is something our previous player base asked for. So in order to do that, we had to put more powerful but more expensive hardware into the console, and thus that's why we arrived at this particular price point. We will continue to also support the Switch 1 for the time being. I know Nintendo fans in particular are fond of our characters in the worlds that they exist in, and we would love for them to continue playing the games that we create for the fans of these characters and worlds. I want to sort of tackle the X, I guess, post that he made. It was it X or it might have been Blue Sky, whatever social media it was on. I really don't care because both of those platforms are just a dumpster fire of stupidity. But if I were him, I would go along with, I don't know, the lines of, due to the nature of having to increase our staff members per game and the amount of time it takes to develop the game, depending on the scope of the game and other factors that contribute to the production of the game. We have decided that we are going to price each game depending on those variables. Now, I will say with that particular tweet, whatever it was, him deciding what, or let me rephrase that, it's not so much as him, but like a company deciding what I think it was depth of the game, that really isn't for you to decide. That's for the players, unfortunately. That is a very Randy Pitchford thing to say. He said something along the similar lines back with Colonial Marines when he decided that players were wrong in saying that the game was like I can't remember what it was. It was a 3 or 4. And he's like, nah, that game's a 7. He's not the one who chooses what the ratings are. Even the critics don't do that as much as they like to pretend to. It's the players who do. If you can't tell, I don't like Randy Pitchford. Anyways, this isn't about Randy. It's about Mr. Doug Bowser and Nintendo. Now let's talk about the tech demo, or I guess Switch 2 welcome tour. Yeah, I honestly don't have anything to defend a $10 price tag for that. Maybe it's just me because I remember getting the Wii U and it coming with Wii Sports. So, yeah. I mean, it's a glorified instruction booklet with some mini games that are like, oh, that's neat, but you'll never touch it again after you play it for 30 minutes. Honestly, at this point, there's a lot of things I would do if I was Nintendo. One, I would just put out the Switch 2 welcome tour for free at this point. Kind of as an apology. It's somewhat of a hollow apology, and I'm pretty sure people would prefer a lower price, but I don't think that's going to happen. Two, I honestly would not let Doug Bowser do any more interviews or make any more statements online of any kind. He is now the face of more or less contempt and hatred towards Nintendo, particularly in regards to price. And every time they see him, they're going to think negatively of Nintendo. I'm almost positive of that. I said almost positive. I'm pretty confident of that. It would not surprise me if he steps down from the CEO position. He probably won't, but it would not surprise me if he did. It rings of the Xbox One, and I can't remember his name. I've covered him before. Everyone knows who I'm talking about anyways. When this particular individual totally destroyed the Xbox One's chance of success by opening his mouth. Also in a sort of parallel situation, tone-deaf comment. I mean, at this point, Nintendo more or less has just painted themselves into a corner, and it sucks. I don't think there's anything they can really do or say to appease everybody. That's a literal impossibility. You might be able to pull off some kind of apology that'll make some people feel better about the whole entire thing. I don't know. Just don't add Doug Bowser to it, at least, if you do that. I mean, I guess if the current president of Nintendo Japan, Shantara Furuwaka, I probably slaughtered that. I'm really sorry. But anyways, if he came out with a translator, or if he speaks English, fine. Or maybe just like they have a video per region addressing the whole entire thing, maybe profusely apologizing, or maybe that's too strong, or we're just apologizing. That might garner some forgiveness from players. Particularly stating that Bowser gave a very poor impromptu answer to a question that was asked him during an interview, amongst other things that he's said throughout the whole entire last couple of days. I mean, there's other things they can do, like I said, a price drop, but I don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong, and if it does, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Some people keep talking about the tariffs. I don't know, somewhere someone said they won't affect them. I think even Doug Bowser said that earlier that it won't. Or maybe that he was hoping that the Switch would be classified under other forms of entertainment like toys so that they wouldn't put tariffs on them. I don't know. I know a friend told me 20% across the board for everybody which would raise the price by at least $90. So you're looking at almost $100 more, or more like $550 for a Switch 2. And supposedly that also might affect future PlayStation 5 and Xbox imports, considering all those are made outside of the US. I don't know how many PS5s slash Xboxes there are in the country. If they're well stocked up, something tells me they might go through those particularly quickly. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Anyways, I know this is outside my usual content of me being an idiot. I feel like I'm still being an idiot, just not in the same way. And this is kind of for me and all 47 of my subscribers, so thank you if you are and you see this, and if you do so happen to watch it, because I'm doubting anyone else will. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Have a good one.